Well, thanks a lot for having me. My name is Bryan Waugh, and I'm the Chief of Police at the Kearney Police Department out here in central Nebraska. It's my pleasure to join you today to talk a little bit about traffic accident investigation and what motorists can do should they find themselves involved in a crash. A little bit about me. I've been in law enforcement for 25 years. I started out my career with the La Vista Police Department on the eastern side of the state, and came to Kearney in January of 2019. I was appointed to the Chief of Police. I will tell you that members of the Kearney Police Department, for those of you that live in Kearney, when it comes to investigating traffic crashes throughout our city, we do a wonderful job, in my biased opinion. And our goal is traffic safety, to make sure that all the motorists that are on our streets are safe. And should they find themselves involved in a crash, we definitely want to make sure that we're there to help navigate through the process on what that looks like. So, my pleasure to be here with you. Great question. And what I tell people, and I would tell this to my own family, if you're ever involved in any type of an incident involving a crash or property damage, that's what we're here for. That's what the police are here for, ultimately. That's a service that we can provide, even on private property. So, should you find yourself involved in a crash, say you're in a parking lot of a shopping plaza or a grocery store, and the other person involved is also sticking around, number one, because sometimes people will leave when those things happen. I would definitely recommend contacting the police department. Now, in some parts of the country or parts of this state, the police may not respond. Here in Kearney, I look at that as a community service that we provide. So we can help exchanging the information. It may not be a state reportable crash. It may not rise to the level of us taking an actual crash investigation, but we will help document, the driver's license information, the insurance information, the damage to each vehicle. We've actually taken that one step further in Kearney, where we're working with Carfax. So there's an ability for us to take those reports through Carfax. It's an application on your phone. Our officers, our CSOs, our community service officers, will use Carfax, and we'll document all the information, kind of like an accident exchange form, where we'll document the driver information, the insurance information, the vehicle information through Carfax. And then you as the driver will have the ability to go to Carfax, hit the app on your phone, and you'll have all that information available to you to share with your insurance company or with the body shop, whoever might be working on the vehicle. So to answer the question would be yes, contact the police if you're involved in a crash on private property. So there's two parts to that question. Obviously, if there's injuries involved, or if there's such a large amount of property damage to the vehicle where the vehicle just simply can't move, you stay where you're at, but you stay seated in your vehicle where it's safe for you as a driver. So oftentimes we may drive past a crash that has just occurred. We being the motoring public, the police, obviously we're going to stop. But if you see a crash, something that I'm always concerned about is when I see the drivers just kind of mingling around the crash scene, right? And they're in the middle of traffic. So bad things can happen when we get out of our vehicles. So what I would suggest, if you can move your car, if you're not injured, if the other person isn't injured and the vehicles aren't damaged to the point where they can't be moved, clear the intersection, go to the shoulder, and stay in your vehicle with your seatbelt on. So oftentimes people may rear end a car that's on the shoulder of the highway or of a major busy street, and if I'm sitting in my car unbelted, could be injured. So there's always post or secondary collisions that can happen as a result of that. So if you can move your car safely off the roadway, clear the intersection, clear the roadway, open up traffic, we would suggest you do that. And I know that's hard for people to think that that's okay to do, but it is. But if there are injuries or significant damage to one or both of the vehicles, stay put, and we'll get there and provide that protection you need with cruisers and fire trucks that may show up to divert traffic away from that crash. Best thing you can do is document as much as you can. So be a good witness. We don't want you to chase after the person. Contact 911, let them know you were involved in a crash and the other motorist has left the scene. Provide us a description of the vehicle, a description of the license plate, if you can get it, description of the driver, direction of travel. and then we will do our best to locate that vehicle and also respond to the scene of the crash and take information. But what we'll also do is take that one step further and then try to identify other witnesses that may have observed the crash, take the driver's statement, who's involved, on what happened, and then we'll start that hit and run investigation. The worst thing not the worst thing we can do, but what I would always suggest is if you're involved in a crash where the other driver leaves, just be a good witness. There's no sense in trying to chase that person down. It's happened. We've seen where people will call and say, I'm following the guy that just hit me. We don't suggest that. Obviously, you're gonna want to get as much information as you can, particularly I would suggest, again, calling the police and we can help get that information for you. But if you're gonna do a simple exchange of information between two drivers, it's perfectly okay to do that. If it's a non-state reportable crash, meaning that the damage to the vehicles did not exceed or meet $1,500. That was just a recent change. It used to be $1,000. That's been increased this past year. But gather their name, their address, their phone number, their driver's license information, driver's license number, insurance provider information with the policy number and a contact number for their agent, telephone number or an email address, so that you can contact them and also share that information with the other person as well on your behalf, so that both of you are exchanging the information. And then document damage to both vehicles, to your vehicle and their vehicle, whether you write it down or the beauty of having a smartphone, everybody has one. You can take a lot of pictures. So I would suggest taking a lot of pictures, not only of the vehicles involved, but if you can capture a license plate from the other vehicle, they can do the same for you. So you're getting that vehicle information as well as license plate information, VIN number for the vehicle, other vehicle involved, as well as the location. So if you're at an intersection, take pictures of the actual intersection signs, or there's a stop sign, or there's a traffic signal. All those things are important. If it's not a state reportable or a police investigated crash, your insurance companies may do their own independent investigation as well to determine causation of the crash. So more pictures of that. It's a really good question. And what I would always tell people, and again, I have these conversations with my own family if they're ever involved in something, it's what you're comfortable doing. There are some people that are extremely comfortable in rendering aid or taking those extra steps to try to get somebody out of a vehicle. Now, oftentimes there could be other factors involved, whether it's fluid from the vehicle or airbag deployment, and there's debris inside the vehicle, so you have to be really careful. Seatbelts are on, seatbelts may be off, glass could be around, so I would suggest being careful, but also we're human and we want to help. So if you can help, I say help, and if you can do so safely. Absolutely. So we can always amend our accident investigation and our report. So the officers are going to take their initial investigation, and if at the time of the initial investigation there's no reported or obvious injuries, the officer won't take it as an injury accident. But if one of the drivers involved, or passenger involved for that matter, realizes they did sustain an injury during the crash, contact the investigating officer and we'll do a supplemental report, the initial report, to update that as an injury crash. If it's a state reportable collision, meaning that if it rises to damage of at least $1,500 or more, definitely contact the police to do an investigation. It doesn't require you to turn in your insurance, but for us, what we do, the crash investigation process for us is twofold. Number one, obviously we're providing information for the drivers involved, but also we're providing information to the Department of Transportation on causation factors or engineering factors. So we want to know about these things to make sure that we can make adjustments to roadways or make adjustments to traffic signals or speed limits, everything that goes into causing typically, as well as individual driver behavior. run report. Obviously, if there's no witnesses or suspect information or evidence, but typically there is. Oftentimes when somebody hits a parked vehicle and leaves the scene, they're probably going to leave behind something, whether it's a paint transfer, whether it's a piece of their tail light, or sometimes you'll see a license plate left behind, which is awesome. That's a clue in our business. So definitely contact the police and we'll take a hit and run. And again, that is considered a traffic accident when you hit an animal on a public roadway. So you can contact the police, and sometimes damage doesn't rise to the level of a state reportable crash, but it still may result in a claim that you want to make with your insurance company. So by having that report, I think that makes the process a lot easier. So again, once again, contact the police to come out and take a report. And that would not be considered leaving the scene of an accident. If somebody were to hit an animal on a roadway, and you go home and realize, I should maybe make a report, you can call us and we'll take a report related after the crash happened. So I'll give you a hypothetical. Driver runs into a telephone pole in the middle of the night, and it could be intoxicated, for example, could be a good example, and leaves the scene. That's leaving the scene of a property damage crash. So where other property is damaged. So an animal is a little different. So if I hit a deer and I go home thinking, oh, I'm not going to worry about this. My property was damaged, but other property was not damaged. So if I hit another parked car, if I hit a telephone pole, if I hit a building, a drive-through or whatever it might be, and I leave the scene, that's leaving the scene of a property damage crash when you damage other property beyond your own.